let's start this way. Tell
Okay.
me about where you were prior to joining, and then kind of take me through what that process was for you in terms of where you heard about it. Did you do research? Like, tell me about how that worked for you. Like, where were you? What were you feeling before? And then kind of tell me how you got to the point of hitting, like, yes, I'm going to enroll myself and commit to giving this a try.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had been working out for 3 years consecutively on my own. I have a friend who is actually a personal trainer. So she's helped me understand how to use machines, how to do workouts. I really loved doing all the workouts. It was great. And then I got married and we moved away. We moved really far away from anywhere. So I was driving 30 minutes one way to go work out. And I was finding myself in the situation where I wasn't planning my day. So I wasn't seeing my husband. And so I realized that I needed to find a different way of working out and getting that in. And so we actually built a gym in our garage. And both of us said this is going to be the best way for us to both work out and for us to hold each other accountable to do this. We don't have an excuse. It's literally in the garage, right? And so that was great for a little while. And then it got really cold. A lot of the excuses were coming. Well, it's just outside. I'll do it tomorrow. And so I was finding myself losing the accountability, not only for my husband, I was not holding him accountable and he wasn't holding me accountable. And so I started doing just a basic search on Instagram. I started pulling some workouts. I think I put in maybe like a hashtag or something of like workouts or, workouts from home. And I found myself, I had so many, it was like a Pinterest board that nobody ever looks at. You pin it and then you don't go back and
Right.
look at it or actually
I
do
have
it.
those too.
Yes. And so I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this is not working for you. Because at that point, I was pinning all of the, or not pinning, I was saving all of these workouts, but I wasn't doing them. And so
Mhm.
again, it had been, I think at that point, it had been like 6 months since I worked out. And so I was like, I have got to find something. And so within one of those keywords, one of your videos came up. And so I was like, maybe if I just start following somebody that does this for a living, that's not my friend,
Mhm.
I will want to do this, more. And so I started following you. I signed up for your emails. And the emails is what got me, which is why I signed up for them. So I kept getting the emails,
Which that's
like,
funny. The emails are kind of the bane of my existence. It's like one of those things that, like, as a business owner, you just have to do. But I'm like,
yeah,
here's me again, putting yet another email into your inbox.
but it worked. It worked. And I think the subject line was something like, one of my clients told me it's bikini season.
Oh
And I'm
yeah,
like,
yep, that one,
yes,
yep.
this is why. Yes. And so I read that email and I was like, let me really think about it and let me learn a little bit more about the program. To your point, am I really ready to do this? And
Mhm.
so I received one more email and I was obviously following you on Instagram. And I think the email was like your Black Friday email,
Mhm.
which is what got
Probably.
me
Yeah. Mhm.
the discount code. And I said, you know what, Mia, we're going to sign up for this. You're at a good point in your life. You've waited 6 months to finally do something. If you put money into something, maybe you'll do it because it's
Mhm.
not $10 at Planet Fitness.
Right.
It's you're investing a lot of money in something that has shown to work, right? And I can do it from home, which is the other thing because I work from home majority of the time.
Yeah.
So I decided that it was time for me to start something, and I ate all of the holiday food. I enjoyed myself, knowing that January 9th was coming. And honestly, I was really nervous to start because I'd never done anything like this before. But the piece that I really, really like about your program, even before I started, was the accountability because I literally used to reach out to my friends like, can you just make sure I go on a walk today? Because I really need you to hold me accountable. But who has time to do that, right?
Right.
To reach out to a friend and say, hey, can you remind me to do this? And so that's one of the biggest pieces that really drew me into this is that I'm going to be doing this on my own in my own house, which I've already done before. What's the difference? Well, the difference was there are all these other women in this program that are in different stages of life, but we're all holding each other accountable. And
But it
so
is self accountability in a way. So I
it
get a
is.
lot of people that say the same thing. Hey, I need you to hold me accountable. I need you to like message me or whatever. And it's like, I would love to do that, but I don't have the capacity to do that. And so it's like,
Right.
how do we bridge that gap between, and if I do that for you or for anyone, not just you, just anybody, because I've done it. I've worked one-on-one several times. It only helps to a point, because if you can't get to a place to become the person that is able to self-motivate, because at the end of the day, that's what you're doing. You're becoming
Yeah.
kind of your personal accountability partner, but there's all these other people, myself included, my coaches included, looking for you, right? Like I know
Mhm.
if I don't see you. I know if I don't see my people checking in, but I'm not able to go as far to be like, hey, where are you today? What are you doing? Why aren't you here? Da, 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 da. And so I do think
Mhm.
that it's interesting. I would love to be able to do that. But at the same time, I do think that there's value in kind of teaching people to fish, so to speak, in that I'm kind of teaching you how to show up for yourself in that way, but like providing the container, the community, the space for you to, connect with other people that are doing the same thing, I guess.
Right.
Kind of hard to explain. I think that's one of the areas that as the program creator, I get a little tripped up on, is how to explain the accountability piece to someone
Mhm.
that's never been a part of it, because it is a little different. It's not me sending you a text message saying like, hey girl, did you go on your walk today?
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting. And I wish that there was an easy way for me to drill into what separates the person that really struggles to engage from the group accountability perspective, and then the
Mhm.
people that really excel at it. And that is not something I've been able to nail down. But the people that are able to, that really get into the community aspect, their results are like 10x. Even if like, even if they do nothing other than post a sweaty selfie, that level of consistency every single day, it's like attached to the habit of working out. It's
Mhm.
crazy. It's really uncanny, the difference. I don't know. It's interesting. That's always kind of been an interesting piece of it. So it's very interesting to hear it from your perspective. Tell me a little bit about, here's another thing I get hung up on, which is just
Okay.
kind of funny because it's hard. So we're going into the summer bikini season, right? And so
Mhm.
it's hard because I feel like as a society, we've become highly sensitized to everything. I very much like to walk the line of, we do things that are good for our bodies. There's so much more to what we do and to who we are than how we look. Yet I would not be being my authentic self if I sat here and told you that for me and for several of my clients, there is a vanity aspect that goes along with it. I like to believe that part of that is when we are showing up as the best version of ourselves, the version of ourselves that we desire to be, we have more confidence, therefore we exude that more, versus like, how does my physical form look in a bikini? I know that's part of it. Do you have any thoughts or feelings around that? Like, because I know you said that resonated with you, and I know
Mhm.
I've been criticized on the flip side of that.
Yeah. I mean, I what's crazy is that when I started this program, I didn't like have a bad vision of what I physically looked like, but I was
Well, you
also
shouldn't have. I mean,
well, but as I feel like as women, like we just like usually our body, how it looks physically is how we sort of compare ourselves to other people. And I really wanted
right.
to stop doing that. Well, I didn't really do it a lot, but sometimes I would, right? But I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm significantly overweight.
Mhm.
All of those things. It was also like I also want to eat healthier for lots of different reasons, lots of things that we haven't been able to figure out with my body. And when I start eating differently, I feel better. And when I feel better, to your point, I have a lot more confidence, whether it's in how I physically look or the fact that I'm just putting in better food in my body. Um, and so I think that's been the biggest thing for me. But while I'm doing the thing that you can't see, the healthy part, right? Like I'm putting things in and I'm not really looking at the physical aspect in your program. Then I start seeing the physical aspect of the healthy things. And that has been absolutely rewarding. And that's also kind of going back to the other part of your program about consistency. And to me, once you start doing those things consistently, it's not a checkbox, right? It's like,
Right.
this is how I live. This is part of me now. And it's not just swimsuit season. I'm going to start eating healthy for 6 weeks and then hope this looks great. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest piece for me, because I'm not getting any younger, is I want to look great, but I also want to feel great too. And if eating well makes me look great, that's a added
Great
benefit.
byproduct for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's interesting because when I started my own journey prior to starting this business, I was a newer mom. So my son was 2 and I was exhausted, like
Mhm.
bone tired, exhausted. And I'm like you, it's not like I didn't go around thinking like, oh my gosh, you look great, girl, like all the things, but I also like wasn't super hung up on like the physical side of it and how I physically appeared. I could not take the exhaustion anymore. Like I was like, at the time I was probably, I don't know, I was 32 and I was like, I cannot feel like I'm 32. I cannot feel like this. And I truly believe it stemmed from not generating energy within my body from movement, not,
Mhm.
you have little kids, it's hard to get the sleep that you need. And I wasn't fueling my body appropriately.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing when you start to do all those things, what then can happen on the other side of it. And I think, you said it perfectly from the standpoint that like, yeah, if I end up looking great, that's fantastic. And that's a great side effect of all of this. But most importantly, you feel better, your body functions
Mhm.
better. You now tell me a little bit about what changes you've made that you feel like you now identify as a person that does what.
Let me know if I answer your question. I think that part of all of these things, like I have a schedule now. So I am a person who has a schedule.
Mhm.
I wake up early in the morning, whether I'm going into work or whether I'm working from home. If I'm working from home, getting my walk in the morning. If I'm going into work, I have a planned schedule for what that's going to look like when I get home. I literally pass out at 9 o'clock at night, which I've never been able to do in my life, which is amazing. And getting up early is not like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I have to wake up early tomorrow. I'm excited for the day because I know that I have a plan versus, oh my gosh, if I wake up tomorrow early, like what is that going to do for me? Which is how I
Mhm.
used to live. So there,
Okay.
there was nothing to be excited about, but now I'm
Mhm.
excited about it. I know what my goals are going to be every day. I know that I've packed my food. I am a meal prepper now, which I never thought I would do. And honestly, it was a little overwhelming to think about in this program and the macro piece. But now it's just part of my day. And a lot of people are like, how do you do that? And I'm like, the hour that you spend on Instagram in
Mhm.
your life, you could be doing that with something that's significantly going to change your life, like meal prepping or prepping what your week's going to look like from a walking perspective or a workout perspective. So really understanding where you're spending your time and what you want your goals to be. And that's been significant for me. And now I think I mentioned this on one of the calls that we had as a team a couple of Thursdays ago. I'm not on social media anymore. And that has allowed me to do so many
Wow.
more things for myself, like this program. I made room for myself to be in this program because I got off of social media. I would have rather be in this program doing things for myself versus Instagram or,
So
whatever.
was there something that triggered that in you to make you take a good hard look in the mirror and go, I have to do something differently? Or was it
Yes.
just like you just decided?
It was, I think it was a pretty quick thing. So I started listening to this gentleman on a podcast. I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, but great podcast just about how to live intentionally, and
Mhm.
how you only have one life. You have so many hours in the day, and what you do with those things are all up to you. Are you wasting your time? If you have goals, are you meeting them? And if you're not, how do you change your lifestyle to meet your goals?
Mhm.
And so then I started reading a book that he wrote. And I kid you not, I think I was in like page 68 or so. I didn't even make it to the second chapter. And part of that just hit me really hard. And it was like my iPhone that day said, your screen time average last week was 8 hours a day. And I'm like, this is what he's talking about, intentional living. And I've got to do something differently. So if I'm not on my phone all the time, what would my goals be? Would they be a physical goal, or would I go, back to school, or
Mhm.
whatever that was? It really hit me hard that I was not spending my time intentionally in life. And so that's what really hit
Cool
me.
girl.
Yeah. So it was
I
a
mean,
tough
it gives me
day.
chills. I think we all have room for improvement, in that very place. I think right now it is so easy to go on autopilot through our day, through our lives, and just kind of let life happen versus live life how you want to. And as a parent, I think of it more from that perspective. It's like it can be so hard, and like at times you like are looking for just this mental distraction, this mental break from all of the responsibilities, but it's like, but are they serving you? Are they helping you show up as the version of yourself you desire to be, whether that's a certain kind of parent or a certain kind of person, or whatever, wife, employee, put whatever, title on it that you want to do. And it's, man, I mean, it's just crazy the amount of time that we all, I think I'm just as guilty of, you go on auto scroll and it's just like you think you're doing something. That's what I talk about, that like mental masturbation of like you think you're
Yeah.
doing something for yourself and it's just like you're just there spinning your wheel. I don't know, it's just wild. I wish that,
Yeah.
I hope that someone's going to hear this and hear your story and go, holy crap, that's me. While I might still want to get on Instagram, like here and there to see what my peeps are doing, do I really need to do it as much as I am? Like that's the self-talk I have.
Yeah.
So I just, it's like I told you, I think we've talked about this in email, if I could put you in a box or like put you in a little bottle and like replicate you, I mean, the amount of success that people could have would just be incredible. Because when you came into this, it was like you made this decision that this is what you were going to do. And you were not, from my perspective, you were going to figure out how to make it work. And it might not be
Mhm.
perfect right away. But that didn't seem to trip you up. Can you tell me a little bit about when you came into the program? Obviously it can be a lot.
Yeah.
What was more difficult than you expected, and what was easier than you expected? And then to follow that up, what did you find to be the most helpful for you to kind of overcome some of those things that maybe you struggled with initially?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest challenge that I had was the macro piece.
Mm-hmm.
When I've heard counting macros and talking with other people, friends, people at work about macro counting, everybody just said how overwhelming it was. And gosh, that's going to be a lot of time. And so that's sort of the mindset that I came into this program with. And I wish I hadn't, because I think by probably like week 2,
Yeah.
I understood what it meant, because you did a really good job of describing what macronutrients are, the 3 pieces that make that up, why fiber is important, et cetera. And so I think when you actually sit down and listen to the calls that you have, or the recordings that you provide in the training in that first week, you lay it out so well that it's not overwhelming. And then you hosted the call about, I think it was the first week call,
Mm-hmm.
who has questions. And I think that was probably the biggest question, is the macro piece. And you answered all of our questions. So I think that was probably the biggest challenge. I think I went in with the wrong mindset. So you made me feel really good about that.
You and everyone else.
Yeah.
You and
Yeah. It
everyone
seems
else,
like a
you're not
lot.
alone. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the easiest piece, and honestly, I was kind of worried about this at first too, is the workout piece. Like, oh my gosh, like we're going to be working out, and what is this going to look like? And is this going to be another let me scroll through Lindsey's videos and pick out which day I'm going to do what. You have it
Right.
laid out so well. Here's the days that we're doing X, Y, and Z. Here's why we're doing it. If you want to add an additional workout, you can do that as well. But everything is just done so well. It literally, if you can follow instructions, you can do this program and you can be successful.
If you are willing to follow it, it is like,
If you are willing to follow it, yes.
and yeah, it's like, it's like, I've got the checklist. If you can just go through if I could tell every single person like one thing, it's just like, don't skip the prep week work. Because so many people, we all want it to be quick, and we want the answer yesterday, the results 2 months ago, like all of that. And I wish there was an easier way to communicate that like your work and the effort that you put in is going to be so worth it. It's going to pay dividends, and it's probably less than what you are actually building it up to be in your mind. It's kind of like your point to the macros piece. Everyone talks about how it's so complicated and it's so overwhelming. And I don't want to minimize those feelings, because I absolutely believe that it is at first. But I think and I say this and you're probably like, oh God, here she's going to say it again. If you give it 2 weeks, it becomes like second nature. It becomes less, it's like a quick, how can I quickly teach you this new language? And it's like 2 weeks in, people get it. People get it if they're willing to do the work. Your results have been just so good. It's such a testament to when you do the work and you follow the program, what can transpire. If you had to give somebody that's just starting, like a couple pieces of advice, what would you tell them? Like, these were the most impactful things that I did right from the jump that you really feel like made a difference for you.
I think that's easy. Do the work, do the training, go through the materials. I think the week one, the prep, and you posting something every day, I initially thought, oh my gosh, like this is like homework. Do I really want to do this? And then I realized that you have taken everything step by step, and that you've put in so much time for this. And I'm investing in this too, just as you're investing in your customers or your clients. We're investing in ourselves. And so follow the training materials, get excited about the opportunity to do something that you really want to do with your life, which could potentially be eating better or learning better eating habits to get to your bikini body. Or maybe it's just you want a better body for whatever reason. Consistency. I mean, I think that the biggest quote that I always remember, I don't know who said it. Maybe you said it, Jackie. Maybe I learned this somewhere.
We probably made it up or found it from somebody else.
I could have made it up. I don't know. But you'll never regret the workouts that you do. You'll never regret preparing your meal for X, Y, and Z day. You'll never regret buying a food scale. That was another thing that was just incredibly hard for me.
I was hoping you would say that. I was hoping you would give me the food scale. Give them the food scale talk.
Yes, the food scale seems overwhelming, but honestly, this whole process, the macros, the 10,000 steps a day, the food scale, all of those things really, for me personally, have helped me understand and appreciate food more than I ever have. Whether it be what a fat is. I didn't know that there was fat in name it, right? So you do a lot of education around what's in what. But also when I go out to eat, I don't go out to eat often, but I don't want to go rogue when I go out to eat. So learning what macros look like, learning what fat, carbs, fiber, et cetera, looks like really helps me outside of my normal day to day. And it helps me live within the program, because I think the biggest thing that people kept saying to me when I started this program, like my family, my friends, was, Mia, you can't live like that. You can't weigh your food all the time. Well, yes, I can. And I want to, but if I have days where I don't want to, or I can't, even if I'm on vacation, I have a plan for that. And it's more of a plan than well, I'll just wing it, or I'm just going to not do it for a week. At this point, this is my lifestyle and I'm okay with that, and I can teach you how to do it if you want.
Exactly.
Because it works, and my progress shows, right?
Yeah. It tells the tale.
Yeah.
It tells the tale. And I think, so have you, is there anything that you've restricted yourself from? Like, do you feel like you've been on a diet since being in the program?
No, not
What
at
has
all.
changed the most about how you're eating now versus how you were eating prior to?
Oh gosh, do you want me to call myself out?
Yes, yes, because I
I
think it's very relevant. And I think everybody's different, right? For some people, it was
yeah,
like mindless snacking was their big area of opportunity to make changes. But so it varies
mhm,
widely for people
yeah,
where their nutrition struggles fall.
yeah. Um, for me, I used to eat tons of fruit, not knowing how many carbs were in fruit. I
That
my
was me.
biggest That was you too? Okay.
Yes.
I'm not alone
And by
there. That's great.
themselves. So I would eat it by itself, only carbs. And so we know that that isn't bad, but pairing it with another macro is going to take you further, right? From like an energy balance perspective. So yes, that was me. I'd eat all the fruit and I'm like, I'm eating healthy. Like, what's the
Yay!
problem?
Yes, exactly. I'm gonna eat 4 apples today. And I just love snacking. Like I am not a big meal eater. My husband will sit down and eat a full meal 3 times a day. I can't do that. So it was the snacking and it was picking things that seemed to be not terrible. And that's what I would say to myself. Well, it's not so bad. It could have been a Reese's, but it was only
Right.
one Girl Scout cookie. Well, in reality, neither one of those are great. And really understanding food was my biggest piece. This whole time I'm thinking that, um, I don't know, apples by themselves were great, or a
Mhm.
big quantity of fruit was great, or just because it's a charcuterie board makes it good for me. Well, that's not right. That's not right.
Right.
So really um changing my mindset. And there were some days where I didn't eat a lot. And
Mm.
within this program, you learn how to eat throughout the day. And I'm one of those clients that chose to fast. And that has worked for me because I definitely ate more than my allotted calories now that I look
Okay.
back at this.
Prior
Before,
to. Okay.
prior to, yeah, because you just
Sounds
don't
like we'll be
realize
giving
how
some
much
of
food you
those
eat.
back to you, though, now that you're ready to progress into reversing up to maintenance. So I think for you that will be exciting. I'm anxious to see how your biofeedback changes. I think that you're going to find that your workout output is enhanced, and I think that that's going to be very motivating for you. So I'm excited to kind of take you through that. So
Yeah, me
I'll be
too.
following up with you
Okay.
on that piece. So because it's a little bit of a process, right? So it's a little bit of a science if you want to go through that process from like a reverse dieting perspective versus like, hey, we're just going to throw out a calculation and make a very educated guess at what we think maintenance
Hmm.
is for you. We're going to be a little bit more scientific about our approach to determining what your maintenance actually is. The one thing that you said that I think is so important for people to understand, especially women in their 30s or older, is, it is really important that we are fueling our bodies. So those days that you weren't really eating very much, if those happen too many times or too long, we can really start to damage our metabolic rate. Couple that with not actively working to build or maintain muscle mass. Well, now we've doubled down on that. And I think that that's something, as we all age, it becomes harder, right? So anything we can do
Yeah.
to make that process easier, especially as, someone like me, you get into perimenopause and things like that. Like it's not going to be easy, but I certainly don't want to make it harder on myself. And I
Hmm.
think that it's easy to think that that's a really long way down the road, and it is in a way. But what we do now can absolutely impact that.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about what your goals are from here. So we know that we're going to reverse you into maintenance. So what are you focusing on now that you feel like you've kind of gotten to where you want to be from like a weight loss perspective?
Yeah. I think that's a tough question
Yeah.
because another reason that I joined this program, that I haven't shared just yet is, my husband and I have been trying to have a baby, and so that was another reason for me to really focus on this and be consistent in it. And so the biggest sort of takeaway from me just being in the first 2 programs, the TEM groups was really understanding how to have a better lifestyle so that once we do have a child, I'm not overwhelmed, like you say that you were, and then I can sleep, and then I know sort of how to navigate my days, and be more prepared. But I would say that the short answer is to continue doing what I'm doing to maintain the weight that I've lost. I think my biggest fear is gaining some of that back,
Yeah.
just because life, right? You see what your body can do, and then you're like, well, my biggest thing is jelly beans. I think I've told you that. So I just, hope to stay away from the jelly beans and
I get
just
it.
stay on track.
I get it. No, that's probably a whole topic someday of conversation for a podcast is, fear of weight regain. I think like I say that a lot, and I don't say it publicly. So I'm sure that there will be people that have something to say about my comments on this, but it's a real fear for me. And it's partly because of what I do. There's nothing wrong with gaining weight or regaining weight, but I think we all have these deep rooted relationships with our body image and our weight and all these things. And for me, that is something that I would love to overcome. I would love to overcome that fear. Obviously, I know exactly what I need to do to maintain my weight and those things, but I am not immune to stress eating and all those things, right? Like, and so it's something that I think about, and I don't always feel like I can openly discuss it because like we mentioned previously, we've become so highly sensitized and we don't want to offend. And so I think I just have to remember, and this is just me giving myself a reminder, that I'm not going to be for everyone. And my approach is not going to be for everyone. And that's not the goal, right? So it's just really interesting. So we might have to explore that together at some point.
Okay.
When you do, if and when you do decide to have a baby and get pregnant, you will have a whole lot of ladies that are ready to support you. We've taken lots of the TEM ladies through pregnancy and postpartum. So,
oh, that's wonderful. Well, and that's another thing that I
mean,
like about your program is that there's so many people in different parts of their life. And I've heard you talk about helping people through that journey. And that was another thing too, is can I continue doing this, when I get pregnant? And that was something that I was really excited about. And the fact that you offer very specific questions to us each week. Like, has anything changed? Do you want to talk? And just knowing that you offer that is different than me just looking at Instagram videos, workout videos, because I know that I can count on you for when life changes.
And one thing that I just have to throw this out there, because I think that it's easy if you don't have a question not to engage in the weekly coaching sessions. But that is something I've noticed about you from the beginning, is that you were either on the call or you had watched the replay. Like I feel like did such a great job of taking advantage of that. And I wish that I could get everyone doing that, because it is such a good opportunity. Even if you let it play in the background of cooking dinner or whatever. I think that hearing what other people's questions are, or just realizing that there are other people going through struggles and things like that, I think there's a lot of power in that. I hope you found this helpful. And if you have episode topics that you would like to hear about in the future, or something that you're struggling with specifically, drop me a comment, shoot me a DM, let me know. I would be more than happy to chat with you. And I appreciate you listening, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Bye.